welcome back to That Dad Guy. It is June 25th, 2022, and it's time for That Dad Guy Answers. So last week, you guys actually gave quite a few questions on a whole bunch of different topics, so I'm pretty excited about reading through these and coming up with some answers for you. So I'm looking forward to that. Don't forget, at the end of this video, when you're finished watching it, leave another comment so we have something to talk about next week too. So that's on the schedule. All right, what else do I have going on before I start getting into questions? Well, the meetup for Moncton is coming up next weekend. So a week today, it will be at Centennial Park from 1 to 4 here in Moncton, New Brunswick. So if you're in the area and you want to come attend, that'd be great. I'm going to bring some chairs, so there'll be some folding chairs to go along with the picnic tables and things that'll be around. And I know Sophie's coming down from Montreal. She's going to be bringing the meetup cards that we'll all get to sign and stamp as attendees while we're there. And if you've got some older postcards maybe that you don't seem to be sending out nearly as often, you can bring those, and there can be some trades and swaps. It's all going to be new to me. It's my first meetup, so I look forward to seeing who shows up and meeting some new faces and picking up some meetup postcards while I'm there and using my That Dad Guy stamper to sign a bunch of them. So that'll be great. I'm going to be doing a video while I'm there too, so I look forward to seeing what comes out of that. And then there is going to be a meetup in Nova Scotia at Peggy's Cove the following day, so July the 3rd, also 1 to 4 in front of the lighthouse. So if you're there, you can go to that one. I won't be attending that one. And then on Monday, July the 4th, 1 to 4 in Borden, Prince Edward Island, in front of the Tourist Bureau. That's where we're going to meet up. And there's a room inside that's been reserved, I guess, that can fill 10 people. So the 10 people that register to get there, that's who we're going to go with. So I think we're getting close to max numbers there, but if you're interested, go ahead and reach out on Postcrossing. There's an official place you can go under Explore. You scroll down, there's meetups. Under meetups, you click Canada and all of them will populate. You'll see the maritime ones populate right there. Just click on them and you can rate in the description that you're planning on attending. So that is coming up next weekend, super close, and I'll keep talking about it just to keep the word going out there. So that is up. And tomorrow I've got some postcards I've got to rate, so I'll do a video on that. And next week I've got a couple videos to come out on stamps that were sent to me, so look forward to doing those videos up as well. And if you got a chance and you haven't seen it yet, my daughter's graduation was last week, and so I did a video about her high school experience that went up there. Yeah, kind of personal to me, so not quite post-crossing and all that sort of stuff. Might be not what you're interested in, but if you are, check it out. All right, let's get to questions today. So the first one comes from Judy in Florida, and she says, can you give a history of the piece of furniture behind you? So this one right here. She says the wooden one with the glass doors, here we call it a secretary. Call it a secretary here as well, because the lid on the front comes down to make a desk. It does indeed. This is where I do all my writing on my postcards. And also I've got sorted stamps in there too that are going to go to my father. So that's in there. She says she has her grandmother's, and it looks almost exactly like yours with the wooden cutouts behind the glass and everything. All right, so that's great. Now, this comes from my wife's grandparents, Dan and Audrey Billing. So this was theirs, and when they passed away and Wendy took over their house, it was a piece of furniture she didn't mind parting with because it didn't fit in what she wanted to use it for, so we inherited it. As far as where it was originally purchased, I have no idea, but Wendy, I know, watches these videos, so maybe she can comment on the history of this. I'm not sure if it's something that was purchased in Moncton, or maybe it was purchased when they were in their time in Yellowknife. It may have come from that era as well. I am not sure. So as far as the back history, Judy, I really don't know about it. I know that it was something that I liked and my wife liked at the time. So we were able and lucky enough to acquire it after their passing. So that's the history on that. Second question Judy has is, how's the voice stuff coming along? Well, for right now it's on hold because this past week's all been about my daughter's graduation, so I haven't done too much other than going to the websites, just checking to see what jobs are coming up. I've had one person respond saying that they would like to use me in a voice, and they're putting together a team for the project, but I have yet to hear back more from them. Also had another person respond saying they'd like me to work but what they were willing, excuse me, what they were willing to pay was way too low for the amount of work that they were asking, so I had to decline that one. So I know that once I get into it more and able to put more time into, eventually the jobs will come. So I will keep plugging along. I still want to make a few more different demos too. I've got a few out there, but I'd like to make a few more just to show the array of things that I can talk about. So that's where we are on those questions. So thank you so much, Judy. Let me go down the list, see what the next one is. The next one comes from Allie in St. Stephen, and she asks, if you got the chance to be on The Price is Right, which is a game show in the United States, and you chose any game to play, which would it be? Well, that's easy for me. It'd be Plinko. So Plinko is the one where you climb up to the top of the stairs, and they have this big pegboard in front of you, and you slide these discs down, and the disc falls between the pegs, and at the bottom there's values of what you win, whether it's $1,000 or $500, $10. So that would be the easiest one. It's not a game of skill, I don't think, because it's all random how it falls down. But that being said, the ones where you have to guess the prices of things, I know growing up when I watched it, you would see something like a bag of dog food would come up, and you say, oh, that's $46. And then they would say, it's $13.99. Living in Canada and the prices of things here, thinking what the prices of the things are in the United States, they're quite different. And sometimes you can get caught in that. So I don't think I'd want to play a game that would rely on how much an item costs at the grocery store, because my idea of what it costs in Canada versus what it actually costs in the United States would be very different. So that's what it would be, Plinko. And then she also says, tell us about a specific song that's meaningful to you. Well, there's lots of songs that have meaning because they remind me of a certain event. One of them, I guess, would have to be the theme song to the Titanic by Celine Dion. Not that it's an amazing song, My Heart Will Go Out to You. It's that whenever I hear that song, it reminds me of the time that my wife and I first got married. It was out, we got married in 2001, and the song was all the rage and seemed to follow us everywhere we went. So even though it had a little bit of a cheesiness to it, if we hear it, we kind of look at each other knowing that it's a time when we got married. So there's a meaningful song to me. And then her third question is, what has been your favorite Canadian stamp issued in the last year or so? Well, let's just see, where are my stamps here? The most recent stamps that have come out are the ones that I think I've found the most meaningful. So these ones, if you haven't seen them yet, these are the whale stamps that came out earlier in June, I believe. So these are the Endangered Whale series, and you've got 5 different ones that are duplicated here. I really like those ones. And then the newest ones that have just come out, let me just see if I have a pack of them left. I've been using a lot of them. Here we go. Are these ones here. These are the kind of the tourist cards, kind of the old-timey. They show you different things that you may enjoy in Canada. So they're kind of old posters turned into stamps. So here's the one that represents Atlantic Canada with the lighthouse. So what do we have? We've got Mont Tremblant, which is in Quebec. We've got the Royal York Pacific Hotel. We've got Great Lakes. We've got the Great Canadian Rail through the Rockies. And we've got the East Coast, which is what you have with the lighthouse. So those ones I really think are unique and beautiful to see. And I would say those are probably my 2 favorites. And now they're almost the 2 most recent. There is one more that has come out just last week of Indigenous leaders. So I still have to get those ones, and I'll show you those when they come. But yeah, I think those are my favorite ones that have come out this year, are the whales and the posters of places to visit in Canada. All right, thanks, Allie, for those questions. Let's moving on. Okay, Wendy. So Wendy's the one I was talking about, who will know more history, perhaps on the secretariat behind me, or the secretary behind me. She says she loves bridges. So what scary, beautiful, old, etc. bridges have I crossed? Well, the one locally that no longer exists, the Gunningsville Bridge. It was super, super narrow, and 2 cars could fit across it, but you had to be right within your lanes, otherwise you were losing your side mirrors. that was one growing up when you're learning to drive. Was always a bit more scary to drive across, especially if there was a truck coming the other direction. It didn't give you a lot of room. So that was one that was interesting. Beautiful and majestic ones like the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. Love driving across that. Going across Tower Bridges in London, you've got that history. When I lived in Vancouver, we had the Burrard Street Bridge. It's still there. It's beautiful yellow with almost looks like lanterns on it at night. So great bridges. Yeah, there's been some rickety ones. There's some covered bridges I've been across. You've got the longest covered bridge in the world in Heartland, New Brunswick. That's a fun one to go across. Yeah, bridges are neat. There's lots of different kinds that are out there, whether they're suspension, whether they're covered. And some of them are not over the best areas and the best conditions. There's some ones that we traveled on in Europe that were just fantastic when you're going through the Alps. I hope that answers the question. So yeah, bridges are cool. All right. Petra in the UK says, which countries in Europe have you and or your family visited, and which was your favorite and why? Well, my wife and I were fortunate enough after university to take 2.5 months and drive around Europe. We bought a car when we were over there. It was kind of a program rather than getting on rail passes and things like that. You could buy a brand new car, drive it around, and then leave it at your exit point. So we did that in 2 places. We picked up a car in the south of France and drove it around continental Europe and dropped it off in France, in the northern France, as we took the ferry over to England, and then we picked up another car when we got to England to drive around Great Britain. So which was kind of nice. You get a brand new car, you have it for the duration you're there, and then you just leave it. It's kind of like a renting, but of a brand new vehicle. So that was nice. So which countries, and I'll get back on the question, which countries did we get to visit? We visited 17 different countries, and a lot of people that we stayed with, or at B&Bs or youth hostels and things like that, said, oh, you're doing it the American way, even though we were Canadian, kind of a North American, that you want to see everything all at once. So yeah, there was a bit of that. We kind of were zipping through countries and seeing highlights. We ran into one family who came from the Netherlands, and they biked to the youth hostel that they were staying at. They were only about 30 kilometers away from where they lived, and they said it's the furthest they've ever been. And so what they did is they saw their area, and they said, well, why would we go anywhere else? We haven't finished seeing all the high points that are in our area yet. So they were amazed that we were coming from Canada to visit their region, and that we'd already done, I don't know, say 12 other countries, or been through 12 other countries prior to getting there. So it was a bit of a whirlwind. But when you're not sure if you're ever going to get back again, you try to see as much as you can. And what was our favorite country? Germany was definitely a highlight for us. We did the Romantic Road, Romantic Straße, and to see all those castles and gated communities and cobblestone streets and the history that was there. I'm a huge history buff, so I loved seeing that. It was certainly someplace that we really want to get back to again. We had amazing experiences in lots of different places, and a lot of it had to do with the people that were there. We had some interesting run-ins with the police, so there's some stories there that could be told in the future too. And just driving things that we had to really budget what we thought we had for money and how long it was going to last. Really didn't work to what we really wanted to do. Our expectations were probably greater than they should have been, so we had to put money in the car, we had to get food, and we had to find lodgings. And sometimes that meant that we were sleeping in the car, and sometimes the food was a bag of oranges, and we would kind of split an orange a day. We were trying to keep the budget down low in order to make the money last. We even cut some things out. We were going to go to Greece, but didn't get a chance to go there because we thought that the money just wouldn't last for the full trip. So luckily I had relatives, or still do have relatives, in England, and so when we were there, we used their hospitality to stay with them for a while to recuperate, to get meals, get cleaned up, and so that saves us a bit of money. But when we were on continental Europe, we were kind of on our own to figure out how our days were going to go and where we were going to end up. So lots of fun in there, lots of great countries, lots of things to see. Germany probably was our favorite of the European countries while we were there. And we have a bias to England as well. When we were in Scotland, that was beautiful. England, Wales, all sorts of wonderful things there and lots of history. All right, long-winded again, but you hit on a topic that I really love talking about. All right, thank you, Petra. The next one comes from Mirja in Finland, and she asks, do you have the day off or the public holiday on June the 24th, which was yesterday? We do. It's midsummer. It's a big festival here, and Saturday is the actual Midsummer's Day. So today is actual Midsummer's Day in Finland for them. To get back, do we have that holiday? We don't have it here in Canada. No, it's not a holiday. So there is no big festival to celebrate the coming of summer season. But we do have the Rib Festival, which is downtown, and I was hoping to get to it last night, didn't, so we're going to try to get to it tonight. So that is the plan anyways. So no Midsummer's Festival here, so hopefully you guys enjoy your festivals, and if you celebrate it in any other countries other than Finland, you can leave a comment and see who else is celebrating Midsummer's Festival here today or yesterday on the 24th. All right, thank you for that. My last question comes from Wendy, and she says, you root for the New York Yankees? I do indeed. I said, what about our Canadian team, the Blue Jays? Well, I don't root for sports based on where I live or as a nationality. Yes, if it's the Olympics, I'm going to cheer for Canada. When our Canadian athletes are going for gold, yes, we're cheering for the country we're here in. If it's a world event, say like the World Cup of Soccer, Canada's actually made it to the World Cup this year, which is amazing. So I'm going to cheer for Canada, of course, for as long as they last. But when it comes to a professional sports league like the NHL, the NBA, the MLB, NFL, I have certain teams that have had meaning and that I've gotten to love, and those are why I cheer for them. So the New York Yankees, for example, my brother was a big New York Yankees fan, still is, loves all things New York. And so growing up in his shadow and him buying me, New York Yankees batting helmets or what have you, there was all sorts of different paraphernalia with the Yankees on it. I got used to having the Yankee stuff around. And in my formative years, the Yankees really weren't a great team. So I grew up born in the 70s, but my years of being active with sports, you go into the 80s, the Yankees didn't win anything in the 80s. They were not a force to be reckoned with. They were a basement dweller. It wasn't until George Steinbrenner bought them in the late 70s that they started to turn things around a bit. But the 80s, they weren't winning World Series. And actually the Blue Jays won back-to-back World Series in 91, 92, I believe. I think it was the 2 years, or 92, 93, either one. So they'd won before the Yankees had won in my years. It was exciting to see the Blue Jays win them. When I was in Montreal at the time, they won one of them. Everyone was excited, and we're heading down to St. Catherine Street to enjoy it. I got down to the bottom of my residence and decided, why am I going to celebrate this? This isn't my team, so I went back to my residence. So that's what I remember about the Blue Jays winning the World Series. But in the late 90s, when the Yankees started to take off again and started to win back-to-back World Series as well, and were a dominant force, that was when I got to be proud of it. And this year, they're off to a great start, 52-19 or something like that now. They're doing incredibly well, and there's great players on it. So that's why I root for the Yankees and not the Blue Jays. Other sports teams like Montreal Canadiens is my hockey team. So it's a Canadian team, and it's in hockey, so you might say, hey, you root for that because they've won so many. Well, when I actually started getting on the bandwagon, was when I lived in Montreal. I was going to university there, and that was the last time the Montreal Canadiens won the Stanley Cup. Now, I'm still a fan. They won in 1993, and haven't won anything since. And actually, no other Canadian team has won a Stanley Cup since that time either. So I've had a lot of lean years, but still a Montreal fan. When it comes to football, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and that once again was because of the influence of my brother. They were a powerhouse team in the 70s, and he used to buy me jerseys and things for my birthday and got a football helmet. It's not up here, it's downstairs. So I was I was just covered in Steelers things, so I became a Steelers fan, and it's been good. They've had a couple Super Bowl wins in my lifetime, which has been nice to see. So yeah, it's where you're influenced. My last professional sports team, now I know you might talk soccer or football that way, I don't follow it, so I don't really have a team. My father's a Chelsea fan because that's where he was born, so that's the closest I have to following soccer. Is sometimes I see how Chelsea's doing. But when it comes to NBA, I'm a New York Knicks fan, and they've never won anything in my lifetime. And most of the time, hardly ever get to the playoffs, but still root for them. And that's where we are. So yeah, so when it comes to sports teams, it's all about where you are, your experiences, and not necessarily just the country you're in. And for the most part, like Blue Jays, probably not any Canadians play on the team, or if there are, they're very few. So you're rooting for an organization that is a corporate entity that's based in a Canadian city. Doesn't really have a lot of emotional attachment for me that way. So yeah, so when it comes to sports teams, it's your emotional attachment. For me, New York Yankees, New York Knicks, Pittsburgh Steelers, Montreal Canadiens. Those are the teams I'm going to cheer for. And if it comes to international sports, go Canada, go. So that's how I feel. All right, those are my questions. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you've got other questions for me, I hope you do. Leave them in the comments of this video, and next week I'll get around to answering them. So until then, stay safe.
What, Polo? You say like, subscribe, share, and tell all your friends?
Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy?